Hi guys, Jay Nelson here once again, and one of the questions I get asked most is how do I come to Japan as an English teacher? Can I still come to Japan as an English teacher? And those kind of questions. Teaching English is still one of the biggest ways to come to Japan, and with the business visa stuff changing soon, I reckon that probably more teachers are going to come again because they need to stay here, convert their visa, and then do something else. So there are a lot of English teachers in Japan, tens of thousands actually. Companies like Interact, Peppy Kids Club, Eon, GABA, Nova, those kind of companies, just those companies together probably hire, I would say, 20 to 30,000 English teachers. There are a lot of English teachers in Japan. If you imagine that there are, how many prefectures? 47 prefectures, 100 or so teachers in each prefecture, it adds up pretty quickly. Actually, there's probably even more than that in many of them. Tokyo, probably hundreds, thousands of English teachers just in Tokyo alone. The question becomes, when is there too many English teachers compared to the results that they get from hiring so many English teachers? When is the curtain going to close on this industry? Because the number of English teachers is growing year by year, but the proficiency of English of the Japanese people is going down year by year, which means there is a correlation between number of English teachers hired and the quality of the English proficiency in the country, which is quite ironic in a way. It just goes to show adding money, doing more doesn't equal results. It's all about quality. And now one of the problems is that while there are a lot of English teachers in Japan, there are not many quality English teachers in Japan. And to add to that, companies are usually not looking for quality English teachers in Japan. They're looking for people that they can just fill the spaces, hopefully stay for a long time. I don't want to sound rude, but probably the worse of a teacher you are, the more likely you are to be kept because you're not likely to go on to do something else, which sounds rude and it sounds a bit mean. But if you are a great teacher, they're going to look at you and think, you're going to get snapped up by a better school or a bigger company straight away. To follow that, if you can speak Japanese before you can come to Japan, they're probably going to assume that you're going to move on to something else. I believe that one day the situation about English teachers in Japan is going to change. And especially with immigration being a very hot topic in Japan, and this is quite weird for me to say, but now with the pool of English teachers growing because they need more people and they're paying lower salaries, the nationalities of English teachers that they're bringing in might look not so favorable to the Japanese people. Now, I don't want that to sound rude at all. I don't believe that should be the case. However, Japanese people are the ones who are going to decide. I remember when I used to work in eikaiwas and kindergartens, and the schools would say, we just want white people, which was obviously very shocking to hear. And it's not very nice that people are prevented from different opportunities because of the color of the skin or where they're from. We do have to realize that we are dealing with a country that thinks different than we do. And if you are maybe a teacher from Kenya who's coming here to teach English, you might end up being stuck as an ALT or an eikaiwa teacher because the bigger companies might not give you a chance, which I hope they don't let that happen. I hope that they end up fighting and showing how good they are. But I have seen it a lot. I had a friend who's from London who just happened to be British Indian, spoke with a clearer English accent than me, probably a much better teacher than me. I know that he was rejected by the company that I worked for because he wasn't white. And that kind of set me off on my journey to quit that company. I left not long after that happened, because you realize that if you do want to be a good teacher and help people learn English, you have to make sure that you're working in a company that wants people to learn English. ALTs, Interact, Heart Corporation, stuff like that, they're sending ALTs to schools, but the kids are never going to become great English speakers via those lessons, because the goal is not to teach them English that they can use. The goal is just to put it on the curriculum, show that they're doing it, make English look fun, but then hopefully they'll just go and sign up to some kind of eikaiwa on the outside, push businesses that are outside of the school. They're not hoping that the ALTs actually teach English. If you've seen the textbooks that they use in junior high schools and high schools, they are horrendous. They are full of non-natural conversations, non-natural situations. It is bizarre. But that's just what we have to deal with. It's very difficult to change those situations. Now, if you are a good teacher and if you are a good business-minded person, you can make your own school and help people genuinely get good at English. And there are some conversation schools and stuff like that that do help kids get really good at English. When I worked at PEG, which is part of Kogakusha, their eikaiwas were actually quite good. The kids had very good levels of English. They were speaking a lot because the teachers were very well experienced and genuinely cared. And the English teachers were allowed to decide what was taught for the most part. And on the other hand, there's a chain called Kikoku Shijo Academy, which is kind of targeted more for kids who can already speak English or have studied abroad. I know that their quality of lessons is also very high. However, very expensive. There are a lot of kind of celebrity-owned eikaiwas nowadays, like ProGrit and stuff like that. I've seen some of their sample lessons, not very good. And I don't think they pay very much considering the amount that the students pay too. However, building your own school will develop good results. In my school, which I don't own, I just run it, we have kids who are 4, 5, 6-year-old who can speak conversational English with native speakers because we made the curriculum together and we know what helps kids speak English more. Now, too many English teachers, I think there's going to be a point where a lot of education boards and stuff like that are going to realize it's very expensive to hire so many English teachers. Ichikawa City, which is in Chiba, which is where my school is, doesn't have foreign ALTs in any of their schools. It's decided city by city. Ichikawa City's English lessons are done by Japanese staff. So they don't even think it's worth spending the money to hire native teachers on, or pay a dispatch company to send English teachers. They just have the Japanese staff doing it. And I'm willing to bet the quality of English of the students doesn't differ that much from other cities that might have native speakers. So it's a very weird topic. It's kind of like they're not going to be able to speak regardless, so they might as well do it as cheap as possible. Of course, the thing is, I do want more English teachers to come to live in Japan, as long as you're planning to provide something and build something once you're here. I do think it is quite damaging to a lot of education of the kids and students and stuff is when people do come and then quit after 3 months because they want to go somewhere else, and the kids are always having to deal with new staff, getting used to new people, may have a bad teacher for a few months. Some teachers are quite selfish. Some companies are very bad, which causes the teacher to want to get out. It's a very difficult situation. I do hope that, at some point they do kind of raise the bar for people to come and work in Japan as an English teacher based on experience and qualifications. But that would obviously require companies to, be more strict, hire less people, which of course they don't want to do because that will affect their profits. English teaching is now such a big business, you can't really change it too much and you can't really alter what goes on too much, because obviously what company is going to be like, yeah, let's make less money. That's why it's better for teachers who do live in Japan already to build their own thing. Rent an apartment that will allow you to run a business out of it. If you can, of course. That's a difficult thing to do, and that's a topic for a different day. I was just talking to an American who came to visit my school the other day. He built his own English school. He hires 2 foreign teachers, 2 Japanese teachers, does profit sharing with the events for the teachers, and he has a lot of students. It's very, very successful. And that because he had a good business mind, had everything set up, a lot of experience, and made it work. There's another English school just down the road from me owned by an Australian. He's got 2 teachers alongside him as well. Very, very popular in the community. He goes to his daughter and sons. All his kids go to the same school as my daughter. He's got things really run very well over there. And so many people could do that if they are, 1, financially able to take the risk, 2, business minded, and 3, I think it's necessary to be able to speak Japanese and learn about Japanese marketing. But there's a few things. So guys, the English teaching industry is not dead yet in Japan, though it might be sometime in the future. So get ahead, start building, build up on yourself, get somewhat famous, get TikTok famous, get YouTube famous, and use that to build something. Thanks all for watching, guys, and I'll see you all next time.